what's playing in the background right now, I guess that's a good point to start with how that fed into Quiet and We Live in Public and what you're working on at the moment. I guess if you could talk us through those points, that would be really great.
I guess in the background you're looking at Launder My Head, which I made in 1993, and sort of the thesis of all of my work. And essentially each of those animated characters is what I call singularity. And pretty much that's where we're heading in terms of our virtual characterization. The idea that the virtual person is realer than the physical person. So that's the basis of everything. And then I guess right now I'm working on the netband command, which is essentially the stepping stone to getting us to virtualization, something like that.
And I guess some of our previous conversations have sort of talked about. One point that kept coming up was Google's former slogan, which one of their mission statements, which they've since removed, which was do no evil, is it? Or
right. Well, with the netband command, the oathing for the netband command is to, I swear to do less evil than Google. Now, I picked that oath because it's, I didn't want to get into God and religion and all of that. It's something that everyone seems like, or a lot of people can agree on. And the issue is whether the march of technology is good or evil and all of that. So there's that edge to it. My point of view is that it's like everything. It's good and evil. It's what we make of it and all of that. And then, in fact, the nice thing about living, all of us living at this particular time is that we're on the cusp of a significant evolutionary shift from the sense of I to joining the hive, where we're just we're becoming fractionalized selves, and there's the sense of personal identity is going to be being displaced by hive mentality, and that's the shift.
That's what really, I guess, when I started researching the possibilities of networks and this sort of shift in society due to networks, I came coming across We Live in Public, which is the experiment you conducted where you lived completely networked, probably one of the first instances of life blogging or life logging, where you wired your apartment full of cameras everywhere in the toilet, every room was covered, and people were able to watch you and your girlfriend living your existence. That was what's like.
Well, the funny thing is, it wasn't that they were watching.
Yeah.
It was that they were actually getting into the hard drive of our brains. I had a Truman Show girlfriend doing this with me, but they were getting into the hard drive of our brains and participating in our decision-making processes. So I get in a fight with the girlfriend, and post-fight, she talked to the people who were participating in our fight, and they told her to tell me to go sleep on the couch. And when she told me to sleep on the couch, it was completely out of character for her. And we, subsequently realized that in fact that people were controlling her.
Yeah, I guess that's what's interesting is that there's a lot being said about how people have a different persona on Facebook, how the network shifts their behavior, and it shifts their public persona, but they also give a lot to the network as well. And I think that. Yep, go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, and Facebook, as I see it, Facebook is just the tip of the iceberg. It's actually not a well-produced version of. It doesn't produce our lives very well. The advent of producing real-time chat is going to take us over the edge. It's like it's print to television as the most powerful medium in the world.
Yeah,
so.
Well, that's the other project. Like, I guess that was directly before, and that was all this stuff is pre 9/11 at the turn of the century. Like, I found it sort of incredible that it mirrors and sort of predicts what's happening now. But the other project, Quiet, I think it's really fascinating, like the networked sort of experience that occurred in that space. I mean, maybe you can talk through, for the people here who may not be familiar with that project, what led you to do it, and then how that feeds into your current work.
Well, I mean, essentially we built an art bunker in Lower Manhattan, and we hit the zeitgeist. We had a working machine gun range. We had a kind of a Heaven's Gate kind of temple. We had an interrogation room where we actually hired a retired CIA interrogator to train us. And then we built a capsule hotel that housed 100 people that was completely wired. And that you could switch between other people and other capsules, et cetera, et cetera. So it was sort of a hive. We built a technological hive, and it worked. It actually worked kind of too well. And then for today, the kind of 15-year later comparable is the idea that you build a capsule hotel environment, and the people in the capsule hotel all they do all day long is watch and communicate with people from their home studios. And the Bard didn't quite get it right for our modern age. His line was, "The world is a stage," and of course, in modern day, his line would be, "The world is a sound stage." And the idea that every part of your life right now is censored and monitored and watched by the system. Yeah. Google it,
Yeah.
And so the NetBand command, the latest work is the idea that instead of having Scotland Yard, or in my country, the CIA or the FBI or the NSA watching us, we do it ourselves. So we're putting ourselves under surveillance and producing that. I mean, all the participants in the NetBand command.
So is that kind of a reclaiming of that panopticon, I guess? That kind of, what the situation we are in now, is that like claiming the network for us, in a way, what you're proposing?
Well, my point of view is that, I don't have any clearance level to watch other people in the world. Some stiff at the Scotland Yard is watching, let's take you guys, some stiff at Scotland Yard is watching all you guys CCTV and how you use your phone and the big data patterns and all of that. And my view is that, I can produce it better, and the difference between them and the weakness of Scotland Yard surveillance is it's not very interactive. It's not you showed the blockage of the Russian Spring and the Arab Spring, and the Arab Spring was very interactive. People communicated. Well, in this case, in the NetBand, the world of the NetBand command, you can earn high security clearance. And then, the people, the participants in the NetBand command can work in unison to affect change in the world, and in particular, change that, since we're all here and you guys are in the UK, we're proposing to take over the Tate Modern Museum because it and turn it into a command center. And for the world, but the idea is that you get into the Tate Modern and you can watch and interact with people all over the world.
I guess the one thing that comes to mind is proposing a network that works along that scale. It is democracy, but then you also might have the Upworthy effect, where the network, the decisions of the network might not be the best, or they can be manipulated some way. I mean, is is what you're proposing an entirely fair flat network, or is that just the experiment? Can it go anyway?
Look, I'm just a lowly artist. All I want to do is do a military action against the Tate Modern Museum, and the people that are participating in the NetBand command, it's a virtual government. And you know what? In any government, people do good, and in any government, it seems that people do bad. But it's at least I have high security clearance. That's if nothing else. Because I'm getting one in the world of Scotland Yard, but in the world of NetBand command, yeah. And by the way, there's a shift from geopolitics to virtual politics, and the real shift of it all is the currency, because when you build a kind of a virtual civilization, it has to have currency, and that currency over time, is going to be more attractive than land-based currency, geopolitical currency. But,
I think it's like an interesting proposal, because it plays with those notions of globalization, and that the corporations, you do have like corporations ruling over governments now. Like Amazon, which was brought up earlier on today, is like incredibly powerful and can shift like national policy on tax, on postal systems, and that has real effects. And I guess something post national borders is an interesting proposal to begin with. I think one thing I wanted to go back, if we can step back very briefly before we open it up and maybe take some questions, is that the experiment that you lived within We Live in Public, and it had all the implications that you described, hasn't swayed you from. I know there was like a period of time in between that I'm sort of a bit unclear about where you were in the world or like what you were doing. And there were rumors that you left New York, and maybe you can talk about that period post We Live in Public. Hello?
I mean, I was being hunted. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I was being hunted. I was being hunted by the authorities, because if you look at the work, it was hot work. And I was looking good as something that was not normal. And in post 9/11 days, anything that looked fishy got the fish eye. The fish eye, the federal fish eye. And but for me that that was just basic training. The fact that their basic weakness is the fact that they're not very interactive with the people that they're attempting to surveil and monitor. And I wouldn't have understood that nearly so well if they hadn't been chasing me around. I was on the run. And let me tell you, all you guys out there, just as a thing to do in your life, being on the run has, it's pretty cool. It's got some intrigue. For a while. Then it's nice to settle down, but haven't quite got there yet.
Okay. Do you want to answer some questions from, if there are any, I guess?
Sure.
Does anyone want to chat directly?
Anyone dare? Yeah, does anyone know does it all seem like crazy to you to watch ourselves? Guess not.
There's some questions over here. There's one there, and then there's one behind as well.
Hi. I was just wondering if you could expand on this whole idea of what you were suggesting in terms of if people were more interactive with their surveillance, then it would be more successful. I think
what I'm saying is that it's cooperative surveillance. People, if you get 1,000 people to agree to do anything at any one time, that's power. And that gives you the ability to affect change, because we all know if you have 1,000 people and they socially mediate a message, on a given day, let's say 3 times on a given day in synced up, meaning at 8, 12, and 5 in the afternoon, they put out the same message, 1,000 people, that will affect change. Or more pedantically, if I'm in the netband command and I've earned enough currency or points or multiplayer gaming points, whatever you call it, and there's a pothole in front of my street, and by calling City Hall 20 times, nothing happened, but, I get 1,000 people to send the mayor a message saying that if you don't fix that pothole tomorrow, come next election, all 1,000 of us are going to assist the guy you're running against. I'd say there's a better chance you're going to get that pothole fixed.
I think there was another question. What, do you still want to ask one, Ray?
I think it's sort of the same thing. Are you saying that state surveillance is okay, or it would be okay if it was more interactive, or are you saying people should seize the means of surveillance? I'm
saying I actually have an agent in Hollywood. I'm sort of in play in Hollywood, and basically when I go into the pitch room in Hollywood, I say, hey, we can produce better surveillance than the government. There's no entertainment value in it. I don't think there's much entertainment value in Facebook or Google or most of the stuff I see on the net. And it really boils down to, when I say take over the Tate Modern, really what I'm saying is create it's like Big Brother where they have one room. Well, this is a whole living quarter for 1,000 people. And, when they sleep in the capsule hotels, we're monitoring them and selling blankets and pillows and all of that. And that's 8 hours a day. And for 8 hours a day, maybe they're entertaining themselves, but for 8 other hours, the remaining 8 hours a day, all they're really doing is communicating with the outside world. And by the way, the people that got into the tape came from the outside world. And so when they get kicked out, it means somebody more valuable to the NetBand command needs to get in, and they're the 1,000th most valuable person, and they get bounced. And that really is just an anchor risk. Right? It's a production, it's a soundstage. So all I'm really proposing is building a gigantic soundstage in London that is really designed for full duplex, robust surveillance and monitoring, not just the UK, but the world. And so that it really, if you look at the tape, it's really, it used to be a power plant, and in some sense, I'm proposing to reanimate it as a virtual power plant of the human mind.
Why the Tate Modern? Why Tate Modern and not MoMA?
Well, I'd say Tate or her Pompidou, because Pompidou's got all the outside fixing. I love Paris, but there's 2 things about Britain that I must be an Anglophile, but there's 2 things about Britain that I really love. First of all, they're good spies, good at the cloak and dagger, and this lends toward that. And I love the French. My English is much better. Or my American English is much better, shall I say. So
I guess your position is post-worrying about government surveillance, because government surveillance is so inherently part of everything we do on the internet. And is that what I can take from that?
If we get into if we build the netband command at the Tate, first thing we're going to do is capture as many CCTV cameras as we can as part of what we're doing, and not just in the UK but worldwide. That'll be somebody will be in charge of CCTV. I just don't think it's government. Do they is the post office, or who would you rather have stock in, the postal service or FedEx? And just think of it for surveillance. They're good at censoring this stuff. They're not good at producing what they censor, and that's the market of it. And as artists, assuming many of you are artists, there's an opening, and I think if it's led up to properly, Tate will do it. And by the way, the lead up to that is actually probably
I'm not sure about
the BBC or Channel 4, because on a smaller scale, this can be done for television and pitches, without going into great detail, it's really just, it's really cloud Big Brother. Next generation Big Brother, where it's not everybody looking at one room, it's that the anchor desk looks at millions of rooms. And doing that is really just a production process. And if you look at my work, I was doing a lot of work with chat, and think of the quiet experiment, that's the sound stage for the living quarters, and if you think of We Live in Public, that was the home studio. Or shall I say the world is a home sound stage studio. And then I did another piece of work called Operator 11, which is the platform design. So really, it's a function of putting all this together into a production. Now, in modern times, would you, if you're, everybody in this room, ask yourself, would you rather be the director of a major motion picture or, the net band command at the Tate Modern? Which one is more au courant, using my minimal French? Which one's more au courant? Which one's more happening now? And for me, it's not even close. Movie is just a very expensive 90-minute file. There's no dynamic to it. There used to be, but not so much anymore.
Is there any more questions? I guess what I take from it is, your position can, I guess, is quite shocking, because it basically is post that. What's quite shocking for a lot of people, because it's post worrying about. So it is reclaiming surveillance. It's post worrying about it in many ways, and it's kind of accepting that we're all prosumers. We all want to produce and consume in equal measures. On
that note, let me just parenthetical that. I think the tectonic shift in the world is that we're going from, in the broadcast world, we tend to listen and watch what they produce. I think there's a humongous pent-up demand for the network to listen to the audience. Audience wants to be heard. And it's really now a question of producing the audience.
On that note.
Yeah. Have you got anything you want to ask the people here? Because I can sense there's you've got a split crowd.
Have I freaked you guys out yet? Well, first of all, let me tell you that in the Tate Modern, I'm tossed up between controlling the oxygen in people's capsule hotels and in the ambient air at large, or the pneumatics, because I'm real to maybe pneumatic tubing, so that everybody wherever they are, they can get a pneumatic tube sent to them with whatever physical stuff there is. But, from your point of view out there in the audience, if you're an artist, just in your mind's eye, you might want to ask yourself, do I want to build the capsule hotels? How about the food or the bathrooms? I'm really into the bathrooms because, I put a camera going up at the toilet in the loo because that's the last bastion of privacy. Well, I thought so in 2000, but now I look at it and you see commercials where people are on the loo with their laptops, where they have, you got to admit, they got you in a captive audience regularly. But if you, imagine if you're controlling the food, my point of view is that from the Tate Modern during the dinner time, that the people that are at the Tate Modern are eating in sync with the members in the world at large, eating exactly the same food at exactly the same time. And of course, if you start doing that, then there's a good chance that, 14 hours later on the loo, they're going to be, doing their business at you could coordinate them doing their business at exactly the same time. And you may say, oh, I would never do that, or people will never do that. But from my point of view, after listening to Noam Chomsky talk about manufacturing consent, I think you can get people to consent to, syncopated looing. Am I freaking you guys out yet? I'm working at it. I'm trying. Hope I'm getting there. And of course, by the way, when that happens, there's sensors in the toilet, not just the camera, that are monitoring the chemicals and the composition. And of course, the companies that produce those monitors are going to convince you that it's for your own good and health. But really, who knows? So, by the way, with the netband command, my point of view is that, the prime directive is to really understand it for the tape modern. Since to answer your question, Kathy, finally take it home. The reason for the tape modern is that, we're becoming chickens in the chicken factory. We're becoming human chickens, right? And while we're still sort of free range, and before that cage closes, if we build it at the tape, we can build out the future in advance just by, pressing technologies. Like everything I've described, like the loose censoring, it's all totally possible. It just hasn't been commercialized and coordinated, the coordination of all those technologies. Well, if you can coordinate existing technologies and push them, you can create the future. And I demonstrated that. If you watch We Live in Public, I did it. Well, before the human cage closes, I think it's important that humanity sees what's in that cage and makes decisions for themselves. I think everyone in this audience right now, in your mind's eye, make a decision. Do you want to be free range or do you want to be factory chicken?
On that note, I think we only have a couple of minutes left. So I think we're actually at the very, very end of our time.
Okay.
So I mean, if you want to say anything else, if you want to take it home.
I took my chicken home.
Okay, great.
And I still don't know my answer about personally. We're going to get any recruit. By the way, this has been a big recruiting speech for the Netband Command. We're going to get to that, Yuri, or you just want to do it another time?
I don't think we've got time this time around. Well,
okay.
Netbandcommand.com, I think, is what Josh wants to encourage you to go to if you want to hear about it.
Actually, let me just wrap this. Go to netbandcommand.com. Put in your email, and if you want to join, and you see any of this makes sense to you, we'll get in contact with you.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for that, Josh.
Thank you, Josh.